They say it's love. They call it partnership, equality, balance. But scratch the surface of most relationships, and you will not find love. You will find strategy, positioning, silent wars. What you call connection is often nothing more than two people negotiating for control. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He knew that beneath the poetry of love lies something raw, something darker, a will to power, a hunger to dominate, to possess, to shape the other into something useful, comforting, predictable. Because love, when spoken aloud, wears the language of care. But in practice, it is often a test of strength. Who will bend, who will yield, who will lead, and who will be led? Most people don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with the role you play in their structure of control. They don't want you free. They want you available. They don't want you sovereign. They want you dependable, pliable, predictable. And when you stop playing your role, when you rise, when you evolve, when you reclaim your energy, they call it betrayal. They say, "You've changed." Of course you have. Because love, as it's practiced in this world, is not about elevation. It's about containment. Nietzsche would say that every romantic entanglement is a battle of wills disguised as affection, that your desire to be close is often a veiled desire to control. "I want you to be mine" sounds romantic, but what it means is I want access to your attention, your loyalty, your energy, your compliance. We are not trained to admit this. It sounds harsh, cruel, but only because we have wrapped the desire for control in the silk of sentiment. And it blinds us. It blinds us to how relationships are used as tools, to avoid pain, to escape loneliness, to prop up fragile identities, to demand from another what we have refused to give to ourselves. You think you want love, but what you often want is a power position. You want to be wanted more than you want to want. You want to be missed more than you want to be free. You want to be the one who has the leverage. And so you play the game. You delay the text. You measure your words. You punish their distance with silence. And you call this boundaries. But it's not boundaries. It's leverage. And Nietzsche would say, this is not love. This is war. Because make no mistake, most people don't enter relationships to give. They enter to extract. Not because they are evil, but because they are unconscious, because their soul is hungry, because their childhood wounds taught them that affection is currency, that safety is earned, that love is something to control, not receive. And so they measure everything. Who initiates, who apologizes first, who needs who more. And the moment the balance tilts, the war begins. One becomes anxious, the other avoidant. One pulls, the other retreats. One demands more, the other offers less. And the nice-sounding labels, attachment styles, love languages, emotional needs are just masks. Beneath them is this one truth. Someone always wants more than the other, and the one who wants less holds the power. Nietzsche would not be shocked by this. He believed that all of life was driven by the will to power, the innate force in every human to expand, to control, to assert. And relationships are no exception. In fact, they are the most fertile ground for it. Because unlike politics or business, love offers a sanctified battlefield. One where control can be exerted without guilt, where manipulation is rewarded, where dependence is confused for intimacy. And the result? Two people locked in a dance of mutual control, each trying to hold the upper hand, while pretending they're simply trying to connect. You say you want an equal partner, but equality threatens you. You want someone strong, but not stronger than you. You want someone loving, but not someone whose love makes you dependent. You want someone loyal, but only if their loyalty doesn't expose your lack of depth. You want a mirror, but only if the reflection is flattering. And this is why most relationships fail. Not because of cheating, not because of miscommunication, but because deep down, neither person is willing to surrender control, to let the other be free, to let the other exist outside their emotional grip. Jung would enter here too. He would say that the psyche, if unconscious, repeats patterns, that your partner is rarely a partner. They are a symbol of your past, of your mother, your father, your first love. And you don't love them. You project onto them. And when they stop reflecting what you need, when they become real, you feel betrayed. Not because they lied, but because they refused to keep being your fantasy. And so you punish them, withdraw from them, try to reshape them. All in the name of making the relationship work. But what you really mean is, make them controllable again. And so we find ourselves here. In a culture obsessed with romance, but terrified of truth. In a generation that speaks of authenticity, but cannot handle freedom. We want love without loss. We want intimacy without exposure. We want connection without giving up control. But that is not love. That is arrangement. And Nietzsche would say, let it burn. Let the illusions die. Because only in the ashes can something real emerge, something dangerous, something holy. True love is not safe. It is not a power position. It is a surrender, not to the other, but to truth, to reality, to the fact that you cannot own what is not yours, that people leave, that people change, that people choose, and that to love them anyway, to hold them without holding them down, that is power. That is the kind of power Nietzsche admired, not the power to manipulate, but the power to not need to. Do you understand what that means? It means you do not try to win. You do not try to impress. You do not try to secure loyalty through performance. You become sovereign. You meet your own needs. You heal your own wounds. And from that wholeness you choose, not to possess, but to experience, to share, to give without expectation. And if they stay, you're grateful. And if they leave, you do not collapse. Because your worth was never inside their hands. That is the highest form of love. And the rarest, because it cannot be played. It cannot be used. It cannot be turned into a power game. But most people aren't there. They are still little children in adult bodies, wanting to be adored, wanting to be chosen, wanting to be validated. And they use love to get it. And when it works, they call it chemistry. And when it fails, they call it heartbreak. But it was never love. It was power disguised as affection. It was manipulation disguised as compatibility. And until you see this, until you admit how much of your love is actually control, you will repeat the loop again and again. Different faces, same game, same pain. So what do? You become aware. You become honest. You look in the mirror and you ask, am I loving or am I managing? Am I connecting or am I controlling? Am I here to experience them or to edit them into something I can handle? And if the answer is hard to face, good. That is where the healing begins. That is where the old games begin to dissolve. That is where the power begins to return to its rightful place, within you, not in your partner, not in their approval, not in their promises, in you. Nietzsche knew this path wasn't for the many, He said, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." You must accept that truth. You must accept that when you stop playing the game, people will not understand you. They will say you are distant, cold, too intense, too much. Because when you stop needing to control others, you stop being controllable. You become untouchable. Not because you built walls, but because you've burned the contract. The old contract that said, if I please you, you'll stay. You are no longer a negotiator. You are a sovereign being. And from that sovereignty, you give. Not because you are weak, because you are overflowing. That is what real power is. Not domination, but detachment. Not absence of initiation, but absence of need. Not coldness, but clarity. The average relationship cannot contain this, because it was never built for this. It was built on power imbalance, on who cares less, on who can manipulate better, on whose trauma patterns are more adaptable. That is not love. That is war in disguise. Two people exchanging illusions. One offers compliance in exchange for validation. The other offers attention in exchange for control. And both pretend it's romance. But it's not. It's survival. And you were not born to survive love. You were born to be transformed by it. Jung said we do not become enlightened by imagining light. We become enlightened by making the darkness conscious. So ask yourself, what darkness are you hiding behind your nice words? What control are you hiding behind your kindness? What fear are you hiding behind your pursuit of love? Because until you ask that, your relationships will be prisons, decorated beautifully, but prisons nonetheless. Power is not evil. Power is natural. But unconscious power is destructive. Conscious power is sacred. You must learn to hold it, not use it, to stand in it, not wave it like a weapon, to offer it, not as control, but as presence. That is masculine love. That is divine polarity. That is what breaks the pattern. Not more therapy talk, not more strategic affection, not more romantic tactics. Just truth, just clarity, just the unshakable presence of someone who no longer plays the game. And when you become that, when you stop performing, when you stop chasing, when you stop adjusting yourself to fit into someone else's emotional blueprint, you will see who really loves you, who comes when you stop begging, who stays when you stop giving more than you have. You will be shocked, because the moment you stop participating in power dynamics, the majority will fall away. They weren't there for you. They were there for what you gave them. Your compliance, your attention, your weakness. But the ones who remain, they are gold. They are rare. And they are the only ones worth building with. So no, love is not what you thought it was. It is not soft music and shared playlists and matching pillows. It is a confrontation, a crucible, a test of whether two people can stand in their own power and still choose to meet, without control, without possession, without games, just presence, just truth, just soul. Nietzsche would tell you, stop lying to yourself. Stop calling it love when it's control. Stop calling it passion when it's trauma bonding. Stop calling it chemistry when it's codependency. Look it in the face. Let it hurt. Let it tear through every illusion you built. And then, from the ashes, build again. Not a house of comfort, but a temple of truth. And in that temple, you do not beg for love. You embody it. This is why most relationships are power games in disguise. Because most people are too afraid to love without control, too afraid to surrender, too afraid to be seen in their naked truth and not flinch. But not you. Not anymore. You came to the edge. You saw the pattern, and now you choose. Power or presence. Game or truth. Control or connection. Choose wisely. Because one will make you feel safe and slowly kill your soul. And the other will set you free.